His Excellency, Mr. Maui E. Kabaki, President of Kenya. Your Excellency, you have the floor.
Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the government and people of Kenya, I am greatly honored to address this very important conference. We are gathered in Copenhagen at a time when a majority of our people are hopeful that we can strike a deal that will save our planet from further adverse effects of climate change. At this conference, we are also guided by the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. This framework is very clear with regard to equity and responsibility of different actors. It states that the parties should protect the climate system for the benefit of present and future generations of humankind on the basis of equity and in accordance with their common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capacities. However, and in spite of the framework, the existing international regime to fight climate change does not live up to this noble principle. Delegates negotiating on the future regime must therefore ensure that we do not lose sight of this and other key tenets of the Convention as we seek to come to an agreement on a post-Kyoto regime. In our context, equity means an approach that is fair, with reasonable actions by all countries. This approach must reflect the significant differences in capacity between countries to respond to climate change, their historic and projected emissions, and their vulnerability to climate change impacts. Furthermore, we believe that globally accepted principles of democracy and good governance that apply at national level should also apply at the international arena. Therefore, the principles I have just mentioned and the Kyoto Protocol, that is the mechanisms for their enforcement, reflect the democratic will of a clear majority of the countries and peoples of the world. Africa collectively advocates for this position. The entire G77 and China are likewise in agreement. The voice of the majority needs to be heard and to be respected. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's position, like that of other African countries, is guided by the Bali Roadmap with its 5 pillars of adaptation, mitigation, technology transfer, capacity building, and finance. My government supports Africa's position to give top priority to adaptation programs that are funded predictably and sufficiently. We see an urgent need to reduce the adverse effects of climate change while addressing some of the deep-rooted development concerns. These concerns include access to adequate energy, food security, and the prevention of conflicts and the fight against poverty. Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Kenya's economy relies heavily on climate-vulnerable sectors, such as agriculture, water, energy, transport, and tourism. In this regard, efforts to address climate change concerns have been stepped up, including the formulation of a national climate change response strategy. The strategy details key measures and actions, as well as a resource mobilization plan. My government also appreciates the importance of determining the cost of taking action. Through relevant government ministries, we have developed a program that will guide an environmental investment plan at an estimated cost of $2.2 billion per year over 20 years period. As a result, Kenya will, among other things, achieve a 10% forest cover by the year 2030, a sharp rise from the current 2%. As part of this environmental investment plan, Kenya also plans to shift to a low carbon emission development pathway as our contribution to the fight against climate change. We are also committed to make further investments in renewable energy technologies such as wind and geothermal power production. The estimated cost for green energy production in Kenya is $25 billion over the next 21 years. This will require a transfer of technologies, financing, and capacity building. It is in this context that we call on developed countries to assist developing countries like Kenya to access appropriate technologies at realistic cost and provide support through capacity building programs. In conclusion, I wish to state that Kenya supports strengthening of the United Nations Environment Programme that is based in Nairobi. We stand ready to host a revamped UNEP that will have the mandate to help lead the global fight against environmental degradation. Finally, I want to assure you that only partnerships amongst us will guarantee our future on planet Earth. Let us therefore all work to get towards a fair and equitable deal at this conference. Thank you.